And now,
ladies and gentlemen,
please fasten your seatbelts.
Welcome to PreneurCast.
You know, business cards being swapped, beers being drunk.
Can I say a nasty word? Can I say procrastination?
With Pete Williams and Dom Goucher.
How well did that go down?
We can talk about that entire thing in a very another rant and soapbox episode if we want to.
Visit us online at PreneurMarketing.com.
Hello, big fella. How are you, mate?
Pretty good, sir. Pretty good. And you?
Mate, doing very well. Very well.
Excellent. Oh, how is the week treating you?
Hasn't been too bad, mate. Very busy. Very, very busy with the Ironman and all those sort of shenanigans, but not too bad. Going well.
Well, you get all that Ironman stuff out of the way very early in the morning, don't you? So
I do. My mornings have been starting at sort of, same sort of time as I usually have, between 5 and 5:30. But what did I do this week? This morning was a 2.6k swim session at 6:15, followed by a 10k run. So it was a busy morning. So that's been a bit crazy. And Wednesday, I was out on my bike at 5:30 in the morning for a hour and 15-minute bike ride, and it was the coldest morning in 3 years. So that was very, very interesting. At one point, I was tears running down my eyes in pain because I was out on my bike with my fingerless gloves. I couldn't find my full hand gloves, so I was out riding my bike at 5:30 on the coldest morning, and wasn't good. Was not good. But that's all right. That's what you do.
apparently.
Yes. How about yourself? How's your week been?
Just busy with work, my friend. I can't say that I've been getting up particularly early or doing anything particularly inspiring after I've gotten up. I just get up, go through my ordinary person's routine, and then get on with my work.
Fair enough. Well, I was actually talking to James Schramko this week, speaking of your work and what you do. Over a couple of things, speak relatively often, not as much as as I would like anyway. He's a very smart man. But we were just chatting earlier in the week about a couple of things, and he mentioned the podcast and how we're both vying for spots in the Australian iTunes charts. Anyway, his awesome podcast, Freedom Ocean, is always battling us against rankings and things. But he mentioned he's been listening along and referred to you as Carl Pilkington from the Ricky Gervais show.
Yes. Why, thank you, James.
I'm assuming it's a compliment. I'm not too sure.
I don't know how you overseas folks see that stuff. I mean, Ricky Gervais and his gang are pretty well liked around the world. But
the series An Idiot Abroad, which is obviously the main focal point being Carl Pilkington, has been pretty popular here in Australia for the last couple of months. So
that's.
I think it comes down to the accent and things, though, mate. I think that's what it's focused on, is more the accent and referring to that side of things.
Right, because of course we all sound the same to you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I will take it as a compliment, and I shall take it as a compliment that James listens to our podcast.
Well, that's it, exactly right. I think we need to find some rivalry we can actually get going between us and their show. So we need to come up with some something to go back at Timbo and James with. I'm not quite sure what that can be. Everyone does already call him Shrek. So I need to work just to his surname, Schramko. I think John Carlton gave him that nickname, I think. But we need to come up with something that sort of had this, ongoing rivalry, I think, maybe.
I think so. And the game is afoot, sir.
Something that would be kind of cool. I know a lot of people do this in the speaking game where they actually challenge each other to drop a certain word in their presentation. So maybe we can challenge them to work in a word in context to a future episode they have, and then they can maybe challenge us back.
Okay.
What's a word? We should pick a crazy word, like maybe not pink elephant, but yogurt or something. You can make them try and say yogurt in an upcoming episode, but it has to be in context, though.
I'll tell you what. Get them to say yogurt instead.
Okay.
Yeah, because of course yogurt is not the correct pronunciation of that word.
All right. Well, I'll hopefully he obviously listens, and I'll mention it to Tim next time I catch up with Timbo as well, so we can see how we go.
Okay, definitely. I do think that some epithets are definitely in the running. After we had a number of comments about my reference to Rob Somerville being the Simon Cowell of internet marketing, which seemed to strike a chord.
Yes.
So yeah.
Oh, very cool, mate. So, no, it's all been happening, all going well. Had a call in our office the other day from a listener, which is pretty cool. He shot me a tweet after a phone system. He obviously listens to the show and shot me a tweet saying who's the best person to speak to get a phone system. So I shot Jake back a tweet or a twit or a twat or a toot, as Maryland Man says. Ended up having a chat to him myself, put the sales hat back on a little bit and seemed to help him out, and I think we've given him a pretty good solution that'll help him and his business, which was great.
Excellent.
So big shout out to Jake, and thanks for getting in touch, mate.
Yeah, and just in general, thanks to everybody who's continued to put the comments on the various iTunes stores and subscribe to the iTunes podcast or the RSS feed or however you care to download our stuff. Just thanks for the feedback, folks.
Something interesting, in regard to the phone system side of stuff that I thought might be worth touching on here, because it does apply to a lot of people with their businesses and things. One thing that Jake and I spoke about, and I won't try and get too technical and things like that, but with his new office and the phone lines and stuff, we've looked at a solution for him that's going to give him 100 phone numbers coming into his business. So it doesn't necessarily need 100 phone lines, but in Australia, and it applies in every other country around the world in different circumstances, but you can have, hypothetically, 4 phone lines coming into your business, but actually get given 100 phone numbers from your phone carrier, your provider. And what we've spoken about is him being able to use those 100 numbers in a lot of different ways. The obvious one and the most common one is to give each staff member in your office a direct phone number. So, you call my direct extension or my direct line. It's a pretty straightforward way to go. But what you can also do with these 100 number in-dial ranges is then use them for different marketing initiatives. We do this very, very much in our business. We've got about 160 or so numbers that we use in various circumstances. So, for example, if you're doing a Yellow Pages ad, you put one particular phone number in the Yellow Pages ad. And then if you're going to do a direct mail letterbox campaign, you can put another one of those 100 numbers on that particular campaign. Or if you're doing a split test type mail out campaign or more promotion, you can put 2 different numbers on different split tests. And then with the right phone system and some cool accounting software, you can actually then easily pull up results and reports saying how many calls did each of these numbers get. So rather than the old school way of having to go, oh, hang on, how'd you hear about us? And, marking down on a piece of paper that, they heard from this particular campaign. Or I know an old trick in the direct mail days used to be ask for Julie. And, Julie doesn't actually work at the company. So you know that when someone calls up asking for Julie, they've responded to a particular marketing piece. But with this, it's purely on the numbers. So we know how many times that number has been rung, which is obviously a response to your Yellow Pages ad. So you can work out that my Yellow Pages ad cost me $2,000 and it generated 20 phone calls. So it's, $100 a call. Is that what I'm willing to pay for a lead? And you can do really, really amazing stuff with your phone system in terms of going back to the numbers episode we spoke of a couple of weeks ago, which resonated with a lot of people. You can start doing that sort of stuff on high level. And in our business, we've got to the point where it's pretty technical, but in terms of the different AdWords displays a different phone number on the website, so we can actually track to a AdWords keyword level which ad or which keyword generated the phone call, which is pretty cool.
Wow!
So,
crikey! That is an excellent kind of bit of technology applied to some old school stuff. I mean, I've seen the various things, as you say, the call Julie, or even the postal response where they put a mark on the little. In the very old days when it was like, oh, cut out this coupon or this form, and it had a marker on it to say which magazine it had come from or whatever.
Or mail it to 24A, this street, exactly. Or 24B or 24C.
Yeah. And all that stuff. But the multiple phone line thing is a great way to automate all that and just give you some, as you say, more numbers that you can track and use to respond to.
It's going to be very cool. So hopefully it works out for Jake, and obviously I know that solution will work out very well for Jake, and hopefully we'll be able to help him out with his phone system and things like that. So that's very exciting. So the podcast is generating business, which is always good.
Always good.
Not that it's the aim, but it's always a very nice byproduct.
Indeed. So what's been on your mind this week? I mean, obviously the Ironman training's taking up a lot of your focus, and I'd really like at some point to talk some more about that. But is there anything else in particular that's been on your mind this week?
Oh, look, there's plenty of stuff going on. I think the Ironman thing has been really interesting in terms of just being disciplined enough to get up at 5:30 when the alarm goes off. It's about getting up and doing it and staying focused and all that sort of stuff. And I think you and I spoke about this really briefly earlier in the week. And I think it's really important to have that coach and that third party, that third party making you accountable to yourself and to your goals, because unlike entrepreneurship, where a lot of people sort of out there doing it by themselves, and even if they've got a business partner and stuff, they're not really accountable. So if you miss a session, or you miss, I'm not going to write that blog post today, I'll do it tomorrow, or whatever it might be, you can always sort of make it up. Whereas with an Ironman that's 3.8 kilometre swim, 180k ride, followed by a 42.2 kilometre marathon at the end, you've got only so much time you can train for that, and you have to be ready, and your body has to be physically ready on the 4th of December when we get up and do the race. In that, you can't miss a session. If you miss a session, you can't make that back up. You can't do a double session the following day, because your body's just going to overload and get injured, and then you're going to really screw yourself even more. But so many entrepreneurs don't really have that dedicated mindset with their goal. It's like, I want to have an X amount of income by the end of the year. I want to have something done by a certain amount of time. And they don't have that third party that they're accountable to. And also they don't have that mentality that if I miss a session, I can't make it back up. Because when you're just creating something, you can just go, I'll just write some more words tomorrow, or it doesn't really matter too much. But it's interesting sort of discussion and thought process to go through of how you can start applying those sort of rituals, goals, schedules, commitments to creating something, whether it be a blog or a podcast or a business or whatever it might be. Like, the podcast is great because we make promises that we're going to get it out every week, and we've got that commitment to the marketplace, so we can't really miss a week because we can't make it back up, so to speak, because we are shipping, and it's important. So it's interesting. That's sort of been playing on my mind, and I'm not really sure what the major point of that is, but it's been playing on my mind.
In there, I heard some great parallels. I mean, this is absolutely purely 100% sport. Yeah, you're undertaking a fitness challenge. The Ironman is one of those really big things. I mean, I know you've done this kind of thing before when you were younger.
Not an Ironman, no. Definitely triathlons. Did reasonably well in the day. Back in the day, I did quite well, but not an Ironman. This is going to be definitely a strength of endurance, or a test of endurance.
But it's a serious challenge. But in what you just said, I saw an awful lot of parallels, other than the ones that you stated, between that training that you're doing and being in business, especially being in business for yourself. Right at the beginning, we've talked about having a goal, but stating that goal and making it clear what it's going to take to get to it. And in your case, as you say, on the 4th of December. You're going to get up and you're going to go for, how many hours is it on average?
The winners do it in sort of 8.5 hours, is sort of like the pros times. The cutoff is 17 hours, so the race starts at 7 a.m. and the cutoff's midnight. Realistically, my goal time is 16 hours and 59 minutes just to actually, pass the finish line and survive the whole thing. But realistically, I think I'm probably going to do it in between 12 and 14 hours. I think it's probably a reasonable goal. People I speak to at its training squad and stuff think 12 hours is easily achievable. But I'm trying to stay a little bit more realistic, and just my first aim is to finish it this year. And then if I don't completely end up in hospital, then I may consider doing it again in a couple of years' time. But and do a goal time type race. But for me, it's just completing and passing the finish line and hearing those words, Pete Williams, you are an Ironman.
Wow. But so I mean, but the point there that I'm trying to make is that you drawn a line in the sand. You didn't just go, do you know what? I kind of fancy doing an Ironman. I might start doing some training. You absolutely said, this is the one. I'm booked in. I'm doing it there. In order to do this, you did your research and you said, right, this is the kind of training I need to do. I'm going to need a coach, and you've put all those things in place to get to that goal, which is a concrete goal. And we talked about this before, that in business or in anything, it's no good saying, I fancy taking Fridays off in some waffly way.
Yeah. Well, this is the whole, I guess, business coaching argument as well, to a certain extent, because, like, realistically, I could have easily spent a day at home on the laptop in front of the TV, downloading a couple of Kindle books, reading some blog posts, and creating my own training schedule. And I reckon I could have come up with a training schedule which would have been pretty close to what my coach James has given me. I reckon that would be very, very similar. I think if I stuck to that and did the training sessions that I came up with myself in terms of the 20-week countdown of training, I could have probably finished the Ironman. And that's definitely possible. So I guess a parallel for business is that you could easily go off and, create your own stuff and go your own way and do it all yourself. And it's definitely possible. And look, there's no question about that. But I think if you went to the Ironman and you spoke to everyone who crosses that finish line successfully, I would guarantee that at least 80%, if not more, of those people have a coach. And I reckon the 20% would be probably the 20% who are the professionals who are racing, who may not have a coach because they've been coaching themselves for so long. However, it's very rare for a professional to have a coach, but I know quite a few Ironmen who just coach themselves because they know their body and they know themselves. But if you look at all the age groupers, the people who are just starting out, so to speak, in Ironman training, they would all have coaches. And it's not necessarily about the coach being able to tell you what to do that you wouldn't otherwise know, because you can go and you can work out what it takes to do an Ironman training-wise, and there's plenty of books about how to complete an Ironman, and there's magazines, and there's forums, and there's blogs, and there's podcasts about how to sort of run marathons and train for this sort of stuff, and you can work it out yourself and fumble your way through without a problem at all, just like most entrepreneurs do. But to complete it successfully, it's about the accountability. It's about when you do a swim session and it's like, hang on, my stroke's not quite right. You've got to do that catch a little bit earlier and got to keep your head that little bit 2 degrees further down to give you a better drag, or whatever it might be. It's the fine-tuning stuff that you get from a coach that will make it that much quicker and that much easier to do the event. And it's that's, and it's the squad sessions. The thing that I really enjoy is we're doing squad sessions. My swim sessions are with a squad, so it's not just by myself doing following the black line at the bottom of the pool. And the run sessions, I do a couple of run sessions a week are with the squad, and I do a spin bike session. So half my sessions are with the squad in a team, because it's an individual sport, but it's good to have that social team. You can sort of compare yourself with other people, and that comes back to the mastermind thing we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. It's about, there's so many parallels, and we can, again, probably wasn't the idea to talk about it in this particular episode, but we can definitely drill into it a lot more if we want to in another episode, because I really want to make that promise, or keep that promise I made last week about sharing the story about context. But there's so many parallels about, what I'm kind of learning again, going through a structured training process for the Ironman, and how much the lessons I'm learning and what's apparent to me in what's going to make this race successful for me, how many parallels there are to business and entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, man. I mean, this is why I've always been interested in this as a topic. And, we're way into it. Let's carry on. And you really have highlighted the things that struck me as well. We started with goal setting, which is important. We've talked about, you talked then about coaching, and two things about the coaching. One, the basic nature of it, the accountability. You've got this guy who, basically he's waiting outside your front door at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. He's going to give you some grief, and he's going to cause you some pain, and he's going to cause you to say some naughty words. Otherwise, he's not doing his job. There's that accountability which is helping you, but also, he's an expert. And you're right, in whatever field, business, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, yeah. This is the age of the internet. This is the age of free information. You can go out there and spend a fair amount of time and wade through the various levels of rubbish and find some quality information and work out your own model and your own plan and etc. You're right. You're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what it is. Out there on the internet, somebody somewhere has written something about what you want to know about these days. But the value of a coach or a mentor is that body of knowledge that they have, that means that they can look at what you're doing and just tweak it a little bit. Just give you that extra plus on what you're doing, whether it's, you know, your swim stroke, your running technique, your changeover at the station. You know, all these are Ironman metaphors and similes. But you know, it might be your AdWords strategies. You know, it might be your copywriting. It might be one of these things that an expert or a mentor can look at easily, quickly, and go, change that word, do that thing differently, but do it this way. Not just waving their hands and going, oh, you need to do it differently, but actually tell you exactly what to do. So, yeah, a coach, in whether it's the context of the Ironman or the context of business and entrepreneurship, I think is a really valuable thing. What I find is that sports people, sports persons, politically correct attempt there, failed miserably. Athletes, thank you, awesome. Athletes, I know, have absolutely no problem in getting a coach. In fact, you know, it's the first thing on their list. Very few, even amateur athletes who want to take it moderately seriously, you know, try and do it on their own. The first thing they try and do is either join a club or get their own coach. And certainly professional athletes, they get a coach. End of discussion. And yet, people who want to be in business, who want to be successful, they're not so strong on that. You know, going after mentoring and coaching and things like that. And I think, you know, a lot of people could get a lot of benefit from it.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't agree more. And there's so many other things that, you know, there's so many other similes that we can go through. Things like, you know, on Thursday last week, I had to do a 5K time trial, and every 4 weeks up until the race, I'm going to be doing time trials, a bike time trial, a swim time trial, and a running time trial, just to track the progress, to sort of take note of my numbers. You know, to sort of, the training is training, but you also want to get a bit of an idea, am I moving closer to my goal or not? And that's actually, you know, it can be scary. And we spoke about how looking at your numbers in business can be scary a couple of episodes ago as well. And, you know, it can be scary. I'm going to do my time trial again in a couple of weeks' time, and have I improved? Have I not improved? Where am I at? You know, it can be a scary thing to say, like, I've done all this training and have my times actually improved. And you know, the good thing with you know, Ironman training is maybe my time doesn't improve when I do my time trial in a couple of weeks' time. But that could be because of a number of reasons. I could have had a busy week that week in training-wise, which means I'm going to be a little bit extra tired, and I might not be as fast as I would have been because of circumstances. And that can happen in business too, but you still want to at least look at those numbers and see where you are tracking.
Absolutely, and a great simile back to something that we have talked about. You know, it's if you don't measure it, you can't manage it, is one of the phrases that you hear.
Exactly, and like this, I have to send him a weekly email every Sunday night. I have to sit down and send the coach the week that was. This is the review of the week. This is what I set out to do, based on him telling me what to do, really. This is what I did. This is how it went. This is what went well. This is what went poorly. This is where I'm sore. This is what I did to sort of work on those niggles. This is, you know, where I'm feeling mentally. Am I still feeling mentally fresh, or am I feeling like crap? Or it's that weekly stock take that is as important for me as it is to email him. Like, I showed him the email last Sunday night, and he sent me an email back 3 minutes later going, thanks. That's as much as we've spoken about it. It wasn't necessarily for him to be able to keep track, and I'm sure he'll take that into account as he writes my program moving forward, because we're writing it in 4-week blocks. So again, rather than sort of trying to plan the whole 20 weeks out ahead, we're doing it in 4-week blocks. We can sort of assess where I'm at based on the time trials, based on my weekly assessments. And then this is where I'm at. I'm faster than I thought I was. I've got more endurance than I thought I was, and reassessing from that. So it's a lot of continual assessments, but it is that weekly stock take, so to speak. You know, in a business, you have to do stock take of your assets and your products. You know, in getting things done, David Allen talks about doing your weekly, you know, check, where you sort of sit down and you get declutter and you get everything back into your inbox and you reassign everything for the week coming up. You do that weekly check, and it's important to do.
Absolutely, and that was, as soon as you started talking about that, the getting things done review, the weekly review, was exactly what I thought of. Because not to go too far off topic, but that review is probably the most important part of that technique. But it's also the one that I know most people fail on. It's back to the numbers. Even if you're collecting the numbers, if you don't review the numbers, you may as well not have collected them. this is really absolutely parallel. You're talking about setting yourself a long-term goal, which is, you know, your Ironman on the 4th of December. You're talking about breaking that up into stages, into shorter objectives, like your 4-week training groups. And you're talking about reviewing your progress, measuring your progress, reviewing your progress towards those, and adjusting in each of those 4-week blocks, depending on how you've gone on.
Exactly.
And that it's an absolute parallel for successful business.
Yep. And look, I'm just like as we talk, I just keep thinking of more and more similes and stuff, because I've been spending a lot of time on the bike and a lot of time running during the last week or so, and it's given me a lot of time to think, but also a lot of time to consume information too. And I know you've wanted to do a consumption episode, which we'll definitely do in the next couple of weeks. We've got the context episode to do that, which we sort of bumped today, and then we've got the consumption episode coming up as well. But I've been able to consume a lot of content while I've been out training, which has been great. So my 2-speed software that I've been playing with to sort of get audio and video ripped into double speed, so I can listen to it on my iPod Nano, or obviously my iPhone when I'm on the bike. So I'm able to consume a lot of stuff, but think about a lot of things of how this all fits with business as well. And something else that I've kind of realised again in the last week or so is how many toys and tools and distractions there are around triathlon. You know, there's 3 disciplines.
Really?
You've got swimming, riding, and running. You know, there's 3 disciplines, and it's as bad as golf in terms of how much crap you can buy. Like I was last Friday night, I was meant to do a 3-hour ride on the road last Saturday, but with the Tour de France and the Australian Cadel Evans doing an amazing job to win. Bowenhead's boy, which is down near where our holiday house is, which is pretty cool. So big shout out to Cadel, who I know doesn't listen, but you never know, he might be. We at the bike store, which my coach actually owns as well, we actually did a 10 o'clock to 1 a.m. spin session on the spin bikes, watching the Tour de France. It was so much fun. Nerdy as hell, like 10 o'clock on a Friday night, we're all there riding bikes. There was about 35 of us there. It was awesome fun.
Room full of bike geeks. Awesome.
Yeah, it was good. Anyway, before we got there, I was just sort of, you know, as I do, just looking around the bike store and reading some magazines and stuff. And I was just amazed at how much crap you can buy. And like, yeah, they're cool toys and cool accessories, but do you really need them? You know, like, for one example is obviously Wednesday morning, I was out riding and didn't have my full hand gloves on. I survived. I still got the goal. And my goal was to ride for an hour and 15 minutes at a certain pace, at a certain cadence, all that sort of stuff. And I was able to achieve that goal without having full hand gloves. Yes, it was cold. Yes, it wasn't overly enjoyable, but I still got the goal I needed to. Those gloves wouldn't have helped me achieve my goal any better. I wouldn't have ridden any quicker. I possibly could have ridden slower because I was actually warm. I didn't want to get home as quick. So many times in business and entrepreneurship, and especially in the internet marketing space, there's so many shiny toys that just distract you. And look, does it really help you get to your goal? I've got my clear goal of being an Ironman, and I know what I have to do. I know the steps I have to do to get to that goal. And is the shiny new tool going to help me get there? Is a particular type of tri-bar going to help me better? Is getting a type of computer for the bike over another one going to get me there quicker? Is the new compression tight tracksuit pants or running tights going to be better than something else? You know, there's so many distracting things you can get, you know, and continually spend your money on in this space. Is getting a new pair of flippers going to be better for me in the pool? Well, probably not, because, you know, it's not going to help me any better, really. It'd be cool and nice to have, but it's like most courses that you buy in the internet marketing space, particularly, that people just get distracted by the new shiny object. And does it really help you get closer to your goal? And in most circumstances, it's probably not. The only really thing you need to be investing in is ways to become more efficient and more effective. So ways to leverage yourself, not necessarily a new toy, because most people who listen to this podcast should continue to listen to this podcast, but would know pretty much the technical stuff they need to do to grow their business. Having a coach sort of help refine that stuff when they've got questions, great. But you don't need to go and buy all these extra tools and stuff to help you get there. You know, I'm going to get there with my bike and my running shoes and the gear I've got. I don't need to go and buy so much more.
Do you know, the other thing that pops into my head when you talk about that is something that you said in the past, which is, don't go reaching for the next shiny thing until you've actually used the one you've got. And like, have you really outgrown your bike? Does the computer that you've got right now really not tell you enough information? Or in the case of internet marketing, did you really, really, really do everything did you read everything, listen to everything, watch everything in that last course you bought, and did you really apply it all?
Exactly. That's the question. Some people get distracted and my bike's worth about just under $5,000, so it's not a cheap bike; it's an expensive bike. But I was talking to this is where the whole thought process came to me. And look, that to do the distances I'm going to be spending on the bike, I wanted to spend a decent amount of money on a bike because I'm going to be spending a lot of time on there. But I was talking to a guy before we did the spin session while we were yelling for Cadell to win the Tour de France, and his bike was $10,500, I think it was. And I was just like, and I said to him, does it really make it twice as fast? And he was just like, well, yeah. And he tried to sort of hum and ha and justify it. And realistically, I think the only reason he spent the extra money is because he could, and because it was nice to have a new shiny toy. And
oh dear.
Yes, and I'm not a huge bike guy. The bike's my weakest leg out of all three of them by far. And I know there's a big difference between a $1,500 bike and a $4,000 bike. It's a huge, huge difference. You're going from sort of aluminium to carbon and less shock on the body and a whole lot of stuff. That there is a significant difference. But I just can't see the difference between a $4,500 bike and a $10,000 bike. At that point, you're really working in the 1 or 2% differences. And yes, when it comes to the Tour de France, if you're racing the Tour de France, you want every 1 or 2% you can get because that's what it comes down to. So yes, you want to spend that much money. If you're a pro, yes. But if you're just an age group athlete trying to complete an Ironman, or you're a wage earner trying to start a part-time business, do you really need to go out and buy that $10,500 bike or that $2,500 extra course? Is this going to create you more distractions and not give you a better ROI? Are you better off investing that money in testing stuff for yourself? Are you better off spending that $2,500 or that $5,000 difference on a masseuse every week for the 20 weeks? And I would really believe and argue that if you had a choice of spending $5,000 on a bike or $10,500 on the bike, take the extra $5,000 that you would have otherwise spent and invest it in a masseuse every week. It's going to give you a better value. Take that $2,500 and buy some coaching time. Just pay someone and say, look, I'll pay you $100 a week to reply to my email, to read an email that I send you once a week with my weekly objectives, my weekly results, where my sticking points were, and 3 questions. Much better investment than a $2,500 new course because you're going to know enough. And if you use YouTube, pretty much you're going to learn most of the stuff you need to on YouTube if you want to learn something new. Yes, the value in a product is because it's already sequentially and it's blueprinted and it's mapped out and it's all there in one spot. You know where to find it, and you have to waste your time trying to find the information. But the question is that information actually relevant to you? Have I just gone off on another Pete Williams random tangent and made no sense?
No, mate, no, you didn't. I mean, that it was a very smooth segue, but it's incredibly poignant. There's something else really big that's come out of this as well that I want to bring up. But let's just kind of summarise what you just said, because you're right. You're sat there, and if you have the money to spend, on a whatever it is, $2,500 course or whatever it is, and this segues right back into my point. If you have the money to spend, rather than buy the course, pay somebody who knows what they're doing to coach you, because it will be geared to you. Just like your coach is watching you for those 4 weeks, and they're responding to the emails, whether directly saying yes, thanks, but they're actually taking account of it. And at the end of the 4-week block, they'll go, right, okay, well, you've achieved this, you've exceeded that, you're slacking on this one, we need to work on that, etc., etc. It'll be tweaked to you. So that, in a way, is somebody else watching your numbers for you. Exactly right. The thing we haven't mentioned here, okay, and this is one of those things that actually we really need to point this out, because you're afflicted. Okay? You don't know it, but you're afflicted.
Me personally or the listener? Are you talking to me or talking to me?
Pete Williams. Dear listener, Pete Williams is afflicted.
Is this my turn on the couch? Because a couple of weeks ago you were saying it's like a therapy session for you. Is this like an intervention for me right now?
No,
Okay.
it's not. No, it's not. But it's something that needs pointing out. Dear listener, Pete Williams is afflicted. Pete Williams' affliction is that he does not have any problem whatsoever taking action.
Oh, I'm offended by that because I do. I do.
Okay. By the measure of normal human beings, look, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, everyone measures themselves by the guy in front. Okay?
That man in the mirror.
No, the man in front, the man at the next place. You measure yourself by the guy who's in front, who's going to go across that line in front of you.
Oh,
yeah?
yes. Fair enough. The Joneses, Mr. Jones, who lives next door.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but sometimes, you of all people don't look behind you. If you make it in 12 hours or 13 or 14 hours, how many hundreds of people are going to make it in 14 and 5 and 15 and 16? You're in front of those guys. So you're always going to say, hey, I have problems, I'm not perfect. Of course you're not perfect, but you don't have that big problem in business, certainly in entrepreneurship and self-employment, which is taking action. Now, everything that we've talked about here, whether it's getting a coach, measuring your numbers, all those things, or hiring a mentor, getting somebody to work with you, it's all well and good that you spend that money and you get somebody to read your emails and give you some feedback once a week. But if you don't do anything with what they say, you may as well not spend the money at all.
True.
And that's a really big thing here. I make fun of you. I make jokes because you get out of bed at 5:30 in the morning and you get on a bike or in the rain or you go running or you do whatever you do.
We had a swim session. We had a swim session in the outdoor pool in the rain this week too. By the way, that was interesting. In the pool swimming, you go for a breath, you get a mouthful of rainwater. It was interesting. Anyway, sorry.
And yet, I still think you're moderately sane. But the thing is that this, yeah. The thing is that this is a demonstration of your willingness to do what it takes to achieve this goal. You've made this commitment and you are going for it. I'm not saying it's easy for you. And I understand it's not easy for you. We know each other quite well, and I know it's not easy for you. I'm a little bit flippant with that. Pete Williams has no problems taking action thing. But you've committed to this, and you do it. And really, that's better than any bike, any trainers, any streamlined wetsuit, aerodynamic helmet, or $2,500 course. Doesn't matter what it is. If you can spend all the money in the world, but if you don't actually take that action and commit to taking that action, well, sit on your couch. Keep your money.
So true. And one other thing that I popped into my mind as you were talking too about the coaching side of stuff, and we always tend to sort of leave the episode with a bit of something counterintuitive almost. It sort of seems to be the way quite often, is that half the thing a coach does for you is to tell you what not to do, so you don't overtrain, so you don't work too hard and pull a muscle and don't do anything. How many entrepreneurs, how many people listening, and I'll put my hand up, and I'm sure most people would if they actually really take stock and think about it, how many people are just doing too much in their business? Are they trying to start 4 businesses at once? Are they trying to run 4 websites or do 5 different things, and they just are doing all too much? And they're just injuring themselves financially, mentally, all that sort of stuff. And that's, one of those things that a coach does for an athlete is to tell them when not to overtrain. Like next week, I've got a very, very easy week in comparison to my usual week. I'll read out what I've got on next week, and it's going to sound stupid when I say it's an easy week, but Monday morning I've got a 60-minute recovery session at the spin centre. Tuesday morning, an hour swim session. And then Tuesday night, an hour run session with the squad. Got the day off Wednesday, which I don't normally have. Thursday morning, I've got an hour swim session, and normally that's followed by an hour run, but I don't have that next week. I have to get a massage instead. Friday, day off as usual. Saturday, I've got a 4-hour bike ride. and Sunday I got a 60-minute run. So that's actually a low week for me in compared to what I've been doing and what I'm definitely going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. Every third week I've got that easy week. And if it wasn't for him telling me to do that, and I was just, possibly training by myself, I would just make every week a hard week or a little bit harder than the week before. Because that's sort of, you just work harder as you get better. And, part of his coaching is to, no. You have to have that easy week to let your body relax, let your body catch up, let your mind, catch up as well, and then hit hard the next week. It's about, taking 2 steps, take 2 steps up a flight of stairs, wait for a little bit, then take the next 2 steps. Don't just run straight up a hill the whole way. And that's what, a coach can do for an entrepreneur as well. Say, no, hang on. Let's forget about that AdWords campaign and let's just focus on SEO. Or don't worry about doing this video marketing stuff. Let's just focus on good quality content. Or whatever it might be. Don't try and do too many things at once. Just, keep you on track and keep you focused so you don't overwork and burn yourself out.
An excellent point to end on, definitely. And yeah, you're right, counterintuitive. And I kind of like those because that's, you're kind of being a bit of a general coach for the audience with that. But you're right. I mean, I find that the more experience somebody has in an industry, the better perspective they have, and the more able they are to say to you, focus on that. That stuff doesn't matter, certainly not right now. And however much, everybody would do it. Everybody would do it. As you get better at something, you do more of it because you go, hey, success! I'm achieving something. I'm going to achieve some more. And yeah, is it Schwartz in The Power of Full Engagement? Talks about that.
Yes.
Yeah. That's an awesome book about sport, but it applies absolutely to business. And he talks deeply about taking that break, having that easy week or easy time, push hard, have recovery time, and it's vital no matter who you are, not even just in sport, but just in general life. But it's counterintuitive.
Exactly.
All right, buddy. On that one. That was an excellent session. Thank you. A little bit of an insight into the Ironman and more of an insight into business, I think.
Absolutely. And next week, I've got to keep this promise of context. I have this story we'll share next week, and then we'll do the consumption episode. So we've got the next 2 weeks planned out. But if people have any feedback or ideas for shows, email us, iTunes comments, and we'll endeavour to talk about it. Absolutely. Let us know. And as Pete's already said, you drop us a line and we'll get back to you. Chat to you all next week.
You've been enjoying another fine episode of PreneurCast with Pete Williams and Dom Goucher. Make sure to hang out with the boys online at www.preneurmarketing.com or drop them a line via PreneurCast@preneurgroup.com.